A Silverlight Elevated Trust application is an out-of-browser application which is also able to read and write files to the hard drive in specific folders such as My Documents or on a Mac, User's Username Documents. In this lesson, I'll show you how to extend the application we built in the last lesson so that it saves the Google Doc contents locally in a CSV file that can be opened by Excel. So the first thing that you need to do when making an Elevated Trust application is go into your Silverlight part of your solution. This is the web part, this is the Silverlight part. And in Properties, right-click Open, go down to the bottom, and you'll see an Out-of-Browser Settings button. Click that, and down at the bottom, you'll see a checkbox for Require Elevated Trust when running outside the browser. Click OK. And now, when the user installs this application, they'll get a slightly different message. But for that, you have a lot more features from the developer point of view. You can, for instance, print to the printer and what I'll show you here, read files out of directory on the hard drive and write files to directories. Basically, the directories that you can read and write to are the My directories, like My Documents, My Music, My Pictures. We're going to be working in My Documents. And I have 3 PDF files, all that are reports, 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to read those out with the Silverlight application and display them on the page. So the first thing that we need to do is go to where, let's review here, we have a load data method, and this web client starts reading from this URL, and when it's finished, it calls this method. At the end of this method, what we're going to do is put in this code, and this code here says if the application is running out of browser. And we have to do that because if the Silverlight application is running inside the browser, then it doesn't have access to the local files. So it has to be running out of the browser. And if it is, then we execute this code here. And all this code does is create a collection of strings. We'll call them reports. And then it goes and gets the names of all the files in the special folder My Documents, which is the folder we just looked at. And then we go through the files. And if the file ends with PDF, then we're going to add the file to reports. And then we print out the reports just as we printed out the other sections on the page. There's that method. So let's go ahead and look at that. If we run it, we'll first see it in the browser. And since we're not running out of browser, we don't see anything here. But if we right-click and install the application, here we see this warning. That's okay for now. Say install. And now because it's an out-of-the-browser application, we see the 3 reports that are in that file. So that would be a way that you could display information that you get from the website plus information that you get from your own hard drive. So now that we saw how we can read files from this directory, let's do an example where we take this data here that we got from the Google Docs file online and save it to a CSV file in this directory here. And with that CSV file, we'll be able to open it with Excel and see the data that we created. So let's go ahead and do that. Close both of these. And in the same block of code, we will bring this in. And what we're doing here is creating a string builder because we're just going to build this string here, or better said, build the file. And the file is made up of 3 lines, things to buy and the number of things to buy that we got from up here. We had a variable that was a collection of strings called buys. And for each buy in the document, we added one. And so we do that for each of these buys, to-dos, and quotes. And then we send it to write to My Documents, which we need to get and put in our helper class. So this is the helper class down here, and we'll put in write to My Documents. And what that does is take the relative name that we send, create an absolute name out of it. Path combine just puts the 2 together. the two strings. The first string is the folder path to my documents, and the second is the name of the file. And then we just write to the file and close it up. So let's see if that works. We'll run it. And here we're going to have to remove it first and then install it. Yes, and it is installed. Now I did the same thing, just displayed this, but in the background, it created a CSV file. So let's go look at that. So we'll close this and this, and we'll go look at our directory. And there we have the file info tracker data CSV. We'll double click on that, and we see that it did indeed save the totals of each of the items that we recorded in our Google Doc file. Just to show you again what the Google Doc file looked like, it was like this, and it simply counted all of the buys, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and put the total there. And of course, when you have an Excel file like this, it's very easy to manipulate the data. So we have the total, and for instance, we could say select this and insert a pie chart that looks like this. And so we have a nice pie chart of the items that we saved in the Google Doc online. In this lesson, you saw how a Silverlight Elevated Trust application gives you even more capabilities when inside a Silverlight application. For example, reading files from the hard drive and creating files on the hard drive from data that was pulled from the web.